exciting topics. So we were asked to be here to just give a really quick overview of where we are with sidewalks, kind of how we orchestrate, and then kind of work through a little bit of a list so that as we start to think about budget time, you've got a lot to think about in terms of where you want to spend some money. So do I have to press anything other than the forward button? Oh, there we go. So you might be surprised to find out that back in 1999, we actually put together a sidewalk master plan. We don't use it a whole lot, but the work that went into that really is kind of the foundation of everything that we've done over the last 20 or 25 years in terms of how we've built sidewalks. So looking back at that, it's kind of cool because we had some goals in there that we've really made a lot of progress on, providing access to schools, parks, commercial areas, churches, public spaces. We've really done a fantastic job on our major road network of trying to make those kinds of connections. It talked about ADA accessibility, and we've had several distinct ADA type projects where we've gone out and made improvements that were focused completely on handicap accessibility. And the one that's my favorite, we didn't have a whole lot of trails back then, but we said that we want to create a trail system that connects City Hall with the White Pine, the Muscatawa, and Kent trails. And we've pretty much done that, which is a miracle. And it was a whole lot of hard work, but when you look at a map of the city's trail system, it's right there. We talked a lot about initiating public input in the report. We have new sidewalks, and we've had some good examples of that. And then we really focused on the major streets and the collector streets. So I think the idea was not to get down into the neighborhoods, let residential construction kind of take care of that, but to stay on the major streets and try to build sidewalk that makes those connections that we talked about at the very top to the schools and parks and places like that. So the funding sources that we've used Transportation Alternatives Program, which we call TAP. That used to be called the Enhancement Program, if you can remember that name. So those are really high level, really competitive style projects. We can't just walk in and ask for a TAP grant. It's got to be something that's got transit associated with it. It's got to be something that's in a dense area. It's got to be like the Lake Michigan Drive Tunnel, where we can combine all different kinds of non-motorized transportation to leverage it for a successful grant. We've also used CDBG quite a bit, Community Development Block Grants. Those funds are a little bit looser because they have to be used in specific tracts, census tract areas. And you can see the map here on the right side of the screen shows in yellow our upcoming 2019 census tract map. It's very limited, but what we can do is we can spend that money on the local road network too. So we used it to build out most of Chesterfield Heights, west of Wilson, which was in a census tract for a long time. And we've used it for some other handicap accessible projects. And it's a really, really good source for future sidewalk projects like Hillside that we're working on right now. We can also now use street improvement projects like STP and CMAC and some of the bigger projects that you see us come in with. 10 or 20 years ago, we couldn't use those funds on sidewalk. We had to pay for that all ourselves. That process has changed through the Metro Council, where the partners now look at the road as more than just cars. It's also pedestrians, it's also bikes, it's everything. So that's loosened up. And then we can use the general fund. So that brings us to the last slide, which is basically just our gap list. And this list has been created off of 5-10 years of commissioner comments, resident comments, public open house comments. And so basically every time somebody comes in and says, I would like to have a sidewalk project, we tell them ultimately you need to get in touch with your commissioners because they're the ones that make the decisions on expenditures for the budget. But we estimate their project and add to this list. So there's quite a few really, really good projects on here, and it's a great place to start for you folks. But the keynote there is at the bottom where you see the green arrow. This is a really big list. This isn't something you do right away. It's something you plan on over 20 years like we did last time around with $4.3 million worth of needs. That's an awful lot. But this is a living, breathing list. You can add to it. You can subtract from it. You can highlight it. And I've got fresh copies here. A couple of changes. Maybe one thing to add is that the bigger items on there really need to come through Finance Committee. But we put $25,000 a year away each year for sidewalk repairs. When we get to the end of the fiscal year, let's say in May, we look and say how much have we spent on the improvements or on the repairs, and then we try to pick off some small pieces here and there. So if we've got something that we can do for $6,000 or $8,000, where we build a sidewalk in a gap that's just 2 homes, we try to do that. We do that in partnership with the DPW. And that's been really successful, and I think we're still trying to continue to do that with some of the smaller ones you see on there, and you do see some items in there that are $15,000 or less. Those are the ones that at the end of the year, we really try to go off and pick those up. That's really it. I was actually telling the truth. It was going to be quick.
Oh. Commissioners, questions, comments?
If I could, Mr. Mayor. Oh.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, and I know over time, once in a while, commissioners will get a comment from a resident that says, can you build a sidewalk in front of my house? And so I know you will refer those to staff or to Travis, and Travis and Scott will talk to them, like you said, and then back to you, but they'll put that estimate together. But we, really wanted to have Scott here to kind of explain the process, so everybody knows, if they're not familiar, how this works, and you can respond to the resident that we have this running list, and we use these through our CIP process, and if there's other ones we want to add, all you have to do is ask, and we can get it on the list and at least start the analysis of what the estimated cost is. So appreciate Scott for putting this together on short notice, and it's kind of refreshing everybody's memory on the process.
Scott, I have one. So for the Bristol section from 3 Mile down to Vinecroft, and then obviously Vinecroft to Dunlap, are those both sides? Because I'm not seeing a designation for one or the other.
I think it would be one side, and I don't think these estimates necessarily are detailed enough to tell you which side.
Right, so just arbitrarily
general.
whichever side we could get done, which I think is fine.
It's basically, we've extrapolated numbers from projects that we've done, and then we've looked at lineal distances and tried to turn that into an estimate. So
Right.
if somebody came in and said, hey, we got 2 or 3 we're really hot on that we want to get a good estimate, we would set these numbers aside and do a real QTO, quantity takeoff, where we look at, do we need to have retaining wall? Is there a lot of concrete curb in the way? Do
Right.
we need to add storm sewer? All those kinds of things so that we can get a real number.
Okay.
So some of these numbers may look like they're pretty fine-tuned. They're still very much estimates.
Yep. And then the top one, the 3 Mile south side, Indian Creek to Walker, is that would go under the bridge, right?
I knew that was going to come up because I looked at that one today and I said, I'm not sure I know which piece of sidewalk this is.
Right.
I think it's between the condos, and I think there's a couple houses between the condos and Meyer,
Yeah,
is my understanding. And I didn't get a chance to work through that and look those numbers up to see.
because 15,000 to go under that bridge seems like
We
really
did,
low.
we put concrete in a very narrow width underneath the bridge last year.
Okay, so you guys might just be
It's-
like
it's
connecting.
there right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't one we're real comfortable about because you get this hourglass.
Yep, you're squeezing
You know,
right in.
obviously, it was one I think I looked the other way on. We may not have been able to hit every standard we like to have seen there.
Yep.
But this is more, I believe, to fill in the gaps in front of homes that, unless the home is taken down and a business goes in,
Yeah.
there's no other way that piece of sidewalk's going to go in.
Yeah.
So it'll be an impediment unless the city steps in.
Right, okay. So I will say, since we're talking sidewalks, for Dan Kent and myself, we've had a lot of discussions about this, but that connection from specifically Bristol from 3 Mile to Vinecroft, really important to both of us. I know that's just somewhere that we see a good amount of pedestrian traffic, both living on that side of town. It's pretty dangerous for folks to be walking around on the side of the roads like they do currently. The speed on Bristol is pretty high, 45 miles an hour. You have those hills and things like that. It's just kind of a tenuous situation for pedestrian traffic. And I imagine there will be some needs in terms of improvements on the side to get it done, just because it does kind of dip off the road in certain areas. But that's definitely somewhere that I think it's important moving forward for us to get sidewalk put in, and that's certainly a priority for myself and Commissioner Kent.
So noted.
So I had a question, kind of accidentally piggyback off of that. How do projects get prioritized? How do you make the decision to do, I'm assuming these are just in there in the order you received them, because they're not alphabetical. So-
I think it was started out as alphabetical, and then was morphed a little bit. There's no priority to this whatsoever.
Right, so then how do priorities get set?
By you folks. Just like with CDBG, we came in and we said, here's 5 or 6 different candidates, and we gave as much data as we could on all of them, brought them in, and we bring them in every year, and the commission decides what we're going to go out and try to do.
It seems like they might have been added alphabetically in chunks, because you can see the 3 mile, then you get down to Wilson, that's pretty much alphabetical, then you have Alpine
Yeah.
down to Trinidad, and that, again, is alphabetical just a second time.
Yeah, like we said, a living, breathing document.
It was sorted at one
Well,
point.
Yeah.
Well, those are major roads first and then the local roads, so they're sorted that way and then alphabetically.
Look at that.
But Carol, to answer your question, really through the finance committee and the budget process is when we look at that and we can see, okay, do we have extra funds that we want to put through sidewalks? Here's the list. You guys tell us which ones make the best, most sense to, and where it should be located. So if we can't do it as part of a CDBG project or a road project, those typically will take priority. If we can match funding somewhere, we'll try to move those up and run those past you. But for any freestanding sidewalk project, and we haven't done a whole lot of those at all, other than some of the gap fillings, unless they've been associated to a grant or a road project. Typically, we've done a couple here and there, but not too many in the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, I think about 10 years ago, we actually met just like this to talk about it, and Rob Verheulen was really pushing the idea that maybe we go 50-50 within neighborhoods. If people really want to see sidewalk, and not a single neighborhood came forward and said, we want to go 50-50 on some sidewalk.
So, just so I understand, so we wouldn't really be taking up any of these until next spring?
Yeah, most likely, we don't have any of these sidewalk projects scheduled or programmed for construction at all, unless there might be a small one if we can pick it off before the end of the year, like maybe that one on Calvert there, but I don't think, that's awaiting a consumer's energy permit, if I recall, because
Yeah, we've got
connects to the tape.
6 or 7 of those that we are seeking permits from Consumers Energy on.
Yeah.
It's not their highest priority, so it's not happening real fast, but we're
Right.
hoping to get all those approved so that we can then come and say, we need a certain amount of money to make a lot of key connections that are all short connections.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Are there any grants that we have now for any of these?
Hillside is one that we have on the north side there.
Hillside and Hufford?
Yeah, that one is a CDBG grant. And if you remember, there was a lot of talk that CDBG could be eliminated, and there was a lot of talk that our funding to Walker could be limited dramatically, and it's been just the opposite. We've really went after that one and gotten some big grants in the last couple of years when it became more of a competitive selection. So what that means is we're probably not going to get too many of those in the next couple of years because we've had way more than our fair share. But you never know. We'll still keep asking.
Yeah, Roxanne, that's that stretch that goes down to the Deltaplex.
Okay. Makes sense.
Other questions, comments on this? I think we're good, and it's a good, good refresher for some, good education for the new. One of the things I think to Carol's question, we, at least as long as I've been around, there's been a longstanding practice. We do try and leverage at CDBG money almost, and I can't remember a time where we've done sidewalk without a match to that. There may be, and it's just not coming to mind. It seems like year after year, everything's been a match to that. So I think I would throw for the commission, just keep that in consideration. That's been a good litmus when we can get matching money there. We're kind of foolish not to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and we'll come in, I think it's been every November or December, we come in and talk to you about CDBG potential projects. And again, this is the map that we go off of because you've got to be in the yellow area to be eligible, and then you have to meet some other criteria to be an eligible project as well.
Does this map get re-updated with the new census, or do they update this every year?
They do actually update it every year. I didn't think that they would. I thought it would stay the same for 10 years.
Yeah.
But the last couple of years, I think there've been some adjustments.
Right, because I remember seeing like different neighborhoods highlighted prior, and so I just don't know how we are considering that when we're determining which projects to apply for that CDBG money, in that some neighborhoods will fall off of the qualification and things like that.
Yeah, and we don't know in advance, so it's, if we think there's a neighborhood like maybe Jason Ridge is a good example. That whole tract was in this at one point, and then all of a sudden you add 200 homes that are, $350,000. Well, that changes in a hurry, and I think we saw some limitations there. So I guess we do have to watch that a little bit. If you see an area that's changing and you want to get in there quick, We spent a lot of money in that quadrant at one point, and I think the northeast part of town there's some opportunities for sure, maybe do some things like we did with Chesterfield, going into some of those neighborhoods. Ferris is a great example of an area that could use some of this. So there's opportunities there.
Yeah, part of Bristol actually used to be in the CDBG area when we did some of these estimates, because those were some of the projects we had presented to the commission years ago, and they didn't get selected at the county level. But now you can see that that's dropped off for 2019.
Okay, anything else for the group? If
Will
not-
you send us this, Scott?
Say again?
Will you send this to us?
Oh, the map?
Yeah.
Certainly.
This presentation?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, we would have done this earlier, but as Daryl said, this was kind of a last-minute thing that came up after the agendas were put together, and quite honestly, it was all done yesterday and today, so.
Hey, not to
No
be a
time.
bother, but can you also send me again that sidewalk map from Brianwood to the fire station on 3 Mile? The one that goes back into the park.
I will send you whatever you need if you send me an email. I'm not quite sure I understand.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe I sent it to you in my sleep.
Yeah, there you
I don't
go.
remember.
Yep.
Okay, good?
Good.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott. All right, consent agenda items, any questions, comments on this, expenditures or the Northridge East Development Agreement? Going once, going twice. All right, it is 6:47. We may be able to get through comments if we want to start with that. So I'll start to the left because our clerk just had down. Manager's office, comments?
Sure, a couple comments, and I just wanted to make one comment on the consent agenda on the expenditures. If you look, that's pretty sizable expenditures this time, $23 million plus. Look, obviously, that is the tax payments that we collect in the treasurer's office. So I had Dan kind of calculate how much of that do we keep versus do we send out. And of that 23 million, about 20 million of that gets passed on to the other taxing jurisdictions, whether they're Kent County, Kenowa Hills, all those other jurisdictions. So unfortunately, our take of that is only about, according to our millage rate for our 1.336 mills, we get about 817,000 of that stays with Walker. And then some go to others go to Walker to the DDA and whatnot. But yeah, 20 million of that is pretty much collected and passed on. And we do get a property tax administration fee, 1% we get to keep for the work that we do in collecting those taxes. So anyways, interesting stats for a lot of bills. Yeah, I really didn't have many other comments. I will be gone next week. I know Julie Block will be here to give her overall income tax presentation, department presentation on Monday evening. So, and thanks to those that were at the library committee meeting beforehand. I think good discussion on continuing to move that project in the positive direction. So thank you for that.
You left the snow up in the UP?
We had snow in the UP. Crossing the bridge last night was a little icy and windy, and yeah, it was a couple accidents, but made it. So
Awesome.
beautiful colors. If you can get up to the UP in the next couple of days, Copper Harbor was gorgeous.
Awesome, good stuff, thank you. Mr. Wash?
We'll be doing a strategy session with the Standale DDA tomorrow morning, and it kind of builds off of what we did in early 2018. If you're interested, I can share the slides with you folks. If you can make it tomorrow morning, 7:30, Fire Station 2 in the DDA meeting room. And that's enough.
Thank you. Mr. Shane?
I just want to say thanks to Frank. Our youth commission meeting that Frank helped us with, he did a strategy session with this group of kids, and they enjoyed it so much. It was very thought-provoking, and it was very interesting, and I know that I got some feedback from several of the kids via text. I don't know why they don't email, but they text and said that they really enjoyed it, so thank you, Frank. Walker Pumpkin Bash, huge success. Really enjoyed working with Commissioner Kent. We did a very fine job of handing out bags to everybody that came to our area. And the library meeting, yeah, Daryl, I'm looking forward to seeing this project move forward. And Frank, again, thank you for your contributing all the ideas and concepts. That was helpful.
Thank you. Commissioner Isaac?
Last week, Wednesday, I did the snowplow rodeo, and I got second place. Saturday, I attended the memorial for Trevor Slott. That was really good service. And then the pumpkin bash was good that we had. I got to hang out with one of the high school students from Kennewa as we passed out the bags. So that was a nice experience.
Congratulations on a strong second place. It was actually very close. So it was a good race to watch, and so always appreciate the coaching that we get from our Public Works team. So good stuff.
Elena, do you want to talk on committee engagement?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Community engagement, we're having another meeting on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. We're taking over the business aspect of Winterfest, so how to get the businesses more involved in Winterfest and how we can promote them more at Winterfest and how that they connect to it. So we've been passing around some ideas, and I think that we came up with the idea that we're going to do some kind of ugly sweater contest, but then have their voting be in front of the table, so each business will get half of a table. So that's their incentive of signing up. So then they'll vote at the table. So then whoever votes are then more drawn to their table, so then they can have more communication. Because the feedback that we heard from businesses is that it's hard for them to communicate at Winterfest due to people just walking and trying to go see Santa and stuff.
Good stuff. Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you. It was a great 3-week trip out west, and I did have to coerce my husband into bringing me back. He would have preferred to have extended it, but thank you to Commissioner Huizinga for covering the basis for me in my absence. I was glad to be back in time, at least to attend the Trevor Slott Memorial Service, which I thought was really well done. The sheriff deputy in particular that spoke this year was just really heartfelt, and just really appreciated what she said, and even though she had never met Officer Slott, the regards that she had for him and the appreciation for what he had laid out to make her career possible, she just really appreciated that. So I was glad to have been there.
Good. Thank you. Commissioner Glanville?
So I was at the MML conference. I'm not sure which one it is in the fall, but over in Detroit. And some of the sessions that I attended were related to implicit bias, equity, diversity. I went to a session on some of the tiny homes projects that are going on around the state, particularly in terms of giving housing or providing housing options for lower income residents, maybe more less grounded residents like youth and things like that. So some interesting ideas there. Really had a nice opportunity to connect with folks from Kentwood through Jeff had us all together for dinner. So thank you, Jeff. And that was really a very informative, meeting to be at for those few days. And then Pumpkin Bash was a great success, very exciting. It went well for Feeding Walker Kids. They were the sponsored charity, so that was a really nice way for them to raise some visibility and get some attention in the community. The memorial, of course, was really, as you said, it was very nice service. I found it very interesting too. I met some people there who didn't actually know Trevor, but because they're in the service, it's just all part of that networked family. So that was nice to see people honoring him, he said, who didn't necessarily know him in life. So I feel like there was something else, and now I've forgotten. So I guess with that, I will close. I know there was something else, but...
We could come back to it.
Yeah.
We'll go at the end. All good. All good. Thank you. Commissioner Gilbert?
Yeah, so long time since we've met. So lots got done. We had a planning commission meeting, I believe last week, Wednesday. Pretty benign projects. Flexco over in Walkerview came through, and we approved that project. So that development really is starting to fill out quite a bit. I think that moving forward here, you'll start to see a lot of buildings up there. If you drive through there, it's just really, we've made a lot of progress in filling out that property. Also, we approved an addition for Triangle Associates. They have a secondary building off of 3 Mile, kind of. It's a secondary road, the addresses are still 3 Mile, but that was also pretty smooth. Rapid board, so we had a meeting for the Rapid, another meeting with some pretty easy stuff, but one thing that was really interesting, we're upgrading the buses to 4G, and for my part, it felt a little behind that we're doing 4G with the rollout of 5G. But we're just kind of in an in-between spot where we're not yet ready for the next technology to fully support the system. But 3G is being dropped by the carriers, so we're kind of just boxed into where we're at. We had a comprehensive operational analysis meeting, which Mayor Carey participated in by phone. It was really interesting, really good to talk about kind of where we're at, what our visions long-term were. We did a lot of functional, what if you could draw a transit system, and we just put together a blank map and said, what should it look like? So we spent some time really discussing what we view the role of transit as. And I think moving forward, we're gonna get a lot of interesting feedback and returns off of the whole process of fully reviewing the system that we've got. The last two things, the ordinance committee did not meet today because we had some issues with attendance. Couldn't get all the folks in that we needed for the meeting, so that will be moved to another date. But we did have a meeting with the committee that's working on the new library community center project that we're trying to get done. Really good productive discussion. We talked a lot about the assessment that the consultant did on where we're at right now. Got a lot of good information on what will need to be improved in the short term, and the takeaway really was that we've done a fantastic job maintaining that building. Our people have done a great job, really great work. Some things need updating, but largely it's to support the future potential addition to the Walker Ice and Fitness Center, if that's the direction we choose to go. So that's my past few weeks.
Awesome, good stuff, thank you. Clerk's office?
Just with the ordinance committee meeting, Dan Kent's out for a week, so maybe due to having a quorum next Monday, 5 o'clock prior to our commission work session. If Melanie and Steve are available, and then I'll email Dan Kent and we'll reschedule.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, so I got 2 yeses, okay. Other than that, the clerk's office will be testing and having a training all day tomorrow, 1 to 4, with our new adjudication software for the elections equipment. We're gonna do basically lay out the whole DPW conference room, how it will look. So if you wanna see how we will be adjudicating ballots, I would say probably 2 to 3 o'clock tomorrow would be a good time to stop by and see how complex it's gotten. It's all new technology. That's it.
All right, good stuff. All right, I got 30 seconds. I won't recap anything else that's not already been said. Thank you all. I did have coffee this last week, it was Monday, with the Talmadge supervisor. We're having conversations as the township and the city on the Johnson and 3 Mile intersection and what that is going to look like, and working with MDOT and staff, what have you. But I think it's just good to have that connectability leader to leader there, having that conversation. I did attend out in Holland the Blaine's ribbon cutting the other night. Jane, the CEO, had invited, and it was nice. Congressman Huizenga was there, Senator Victory was there. It was quite an impressive turnout, and I think we're going to be, once that store is all said and done and up and going in Standale, it's going to be exciting. They're a very strong community partner, and you can tell that in how they do things. So I'm really excited about getting that. And then the last thing I'll leave us with, the second White House trip to D.C., give a shout out to Congressman Huizenga's staff. They made more than enough time to help facilitate some meetings and so forth. And as a couple, I shared with Scott and Daryl and Frank, I think, a text picture. I did actually meet with the Secretary of Transportation on our Fruit Ridge Bridge project. So all the way down to DOT staff. So I think that day I had 5 different meetings with DOT. So if we don't get the grant this time for that, I don't know what else we're going to do. So when you get the secretary and actually have a conversation with her, it was only about a minute, but it was enough, explained the project, and one of her staffers, I shared information the next day, and then we had a conversation around that. So let's cross our fingers. We should know, was it November 12th? I think was the date. Yeah, statutorily, they have to have that date. They have to have the build grants awarded by that date. So we're in the home stretch here, and they confirmed there's nothing else that we can do or could have done at this point. And hats off to Scott. That whole RFP was just that process was just phenomenal. So great material, and appreciate having me prepped before I got to DC. So thank you. With that being said, we'll go ahead and call the 7 o'clock meeting to order. And Commissioner DeShane, I'd like to ask you to deliver the invocation, please.
Shall we pray? Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight asking for your guidance and your wisdom as we begin our meeting. Please help us to make the best choices for the betterment of our city and our community. Please continue to remind us that all we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the greater glory of you and for the service of the city and its people. Please watch over those who are hurting and be with our military, police, and fire to keep them safe from harm. We ask these in your great name. Amen. Will you stand and do the pledge with us?
Yes. Invite the audience to stand with the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could have the clerk call the roll for us, please.
Mayor Carey,
Present.
Commissioner Gilbert. Present. Commissioner DeShane,
Present.
Commissioner Glanville. Present. Commissioner Gruters,
Present?
Commissioner Heisinger. Present. And Commissioner Kent did ask for approval of absence.
So we'll entertain a motion to approve Commissioner Kent's absence.
I'll make that motion. I'll support.
Motion from Gilbert, support from DeShane. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Absence is excused. Next on the list is looking for approval of the September 23, 2019 minutes.
Move approval.
Please. We have a motion from Gilbert,
Second.
second from Heisinger. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, minutes are approved. And then now I'll open up public comment on any agenda items that we have this evening. Anybody on the agenda?
There's two. The two liquor licenses.
You want to do public comment at this point on those? Okay. All right, so open up the liquor license, I'm assuming the Sterling Hospitality request? Yes. Okay, please do.
Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Dan Parmenter, and I'm here on behalf of Stellar Hospitality Walker. I'm joined by some representatives of Stellar Hospitality Walker, including Malik Abdenor, who is one of the owners. We're requesting that the city vote in favor of the resolution to release the authorized unused liquor license held by the city for use at the new 103 guest room Holiday Inn, which is currently being constructed in the Walkerview development. This new Holiday Inn is approximately 5 weeks away from being open, being completed and getting ready for opening, and represents over an $11 million investment into the city and the creation of 35 new permanent jobs in the city. This investment in these jobs will represent a significant economic benefit to the city. However, when Stellar Hospitality was going about moving forward with this project, they did so without requesting or receiving any tax breaks or incentives from the city. But right now, they're asking for some assistance from the city for this project in the form of releasing this license that's held by the city. This assistance comes at no cost to the city. However, if the city would choose not to assist, it would cause Stellar Hospitality to have to try to go out and find a license for sale in Kent County, which is very difficult right now. They're hard to find them, and if you do find them, they're quite expensive. And it would cause a significant delay in the process. For one, we have to try to go find one, and they're hard to find. Two, we'd have to try to negotiate a the purchase of that liquor license. And then we'd have to go through the application to transfer that license over to this location. And it would cause quite a delay in the process for a hotel that's only approximately 5 weeks away from opening up. So it's really important to this hotel to be able to have this license. And in fact, if we don't have a license right now, the franchisor will not let us open up the hotel because this is part of their brand. It's a full-service hotel. Part of full-service hotel is that you have a restaurant that has alcohol. And so if we can't open the hotel because we don't have a liquor license, every day will cost thousands of dollars having a completed constructed hotel without being able to open and operate it. We understand that this is the city's last unreleased liquor license. We realize that that's the case, and that there may be some thought within the city of, well, we need to hold on to this one for some unknown potential future project that has a hotel or that has a restaurant in it. And we want to hold it out there as some kind of incentive for that. But in considering this, if that future potential project is a restaurant, the chances of that restaurant being an $11 million investment or over $11 million investment is pretty slim. Probably, I don't know too many $11 million restaurants. And if it would be another hotel, we don't think it's really particularly equitable to hold on to this license and not let this hotel have it for some potential future one that may be out there someday in the future, which to our knowledge, nobody's applying for it right now. Particularly when this hotel is about ready to open up and start contributing economically to the city. I mean, in our mind, if you're looking for a project worthy of releasing the last license that you have, the Walker View project in this hotel in particular is it. It is the worthy project. We think that this hotel offers a great benefit to the city, and particularly the businesses that are in the Walker View development. And we think it's a great amenity for them when you have large corporations either in the development or near the development who have business dealings of people coming in. Now they have a spot they can stay right there close by within the city, a place that they will be able to stay, have a restaurant that they can have their meetings at that would have alcohol. We have a conference room, meeting room, so they can have conferences and meetings, bigger meetings, gatherings, in which they can have meals and have full service for that. And so we think it's great for a lot of the businesses. It's the only hotel in the city limits that will have a liquor license. There is no other one out there right now. So in particular, having the banquet, meeting room kind of thing is a great amenity, not just for businesses, but we also think for people who may want to have events, for nonprofits that may want to do fundraising, you name it. We think this is a great opportunity, a great business, and a great service for the city, actually. So by releasing this license, you're not only just supporting the hotel, but you're also supporting that development and the community. So with that, we really respectfully request that the city vote in favor of releasing this license for this use, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
All right. Thank you. Any other public comment on agenda items we have here this evening? Okay.
Is the other couple Brad from the Brewing Company?
Come on up. Welcome. If you'd identify yourself and the red light's on, we're good.
Okay, my name is Brad Lawrence, co-owner and head brewer at 1983 Brewing Company, proposed down the street at 3393 Remembrance. Thank you very much for having me and hearing about our business tonight. I've been working with the city now for about 4 months on trying to get this business up and operating. I come before you tonight to discuss our permit application for on-premise tasting. Our brewery is based on an East Coast style brewery that is not a traditional brew pub that we're used to here in West Michigan. Here in West Michigan, we have more of a restaurant-based brewery. We are based more on to-go sales, packaging for people to take home. However, if you were to go to like a winery up in Traverse City, you would like to be able to sample something before you purchased it for your off-site consumption. So that is the permit that we are seeking. It's actually through the state. However, they do seek local approval along with that for the actual MLCC permit for the on-premise tasting. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have regarding the business tonight, regarding our plans for the consumption on site or the business itself in general. Any questions you guys have, I am very happy to answer anything you guys come up with.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Any other public comment and agenda items? All right. With that, the public comment is closed. Presentations, proclamations. I'm not going to read through this whole thing. This is a long proclamation from the fire department. So with all due respect to the fire department, reading through this with the audience here or even the commissioners, I might be out of office before the night's done. So this is something that is done every year. I have just signed the document and the clerk has it, just a proclamation. And I think I'll just, if I can, read the last two things on this. Whereas the 2019 Fire Prevention Week theme, "Not Every Hero Wears a Cape, Plan and Practice Your Escape," effectively serves to remind us that we need to take personal steps to increase our safety from fire. Therefore, I, Gary Carey, Mayor of Walker, do hereby proclaim October 6th through the 12th as Fire Prevention Week throughout the city, and I urge all the people of Walker to be aware of their surroundings, look for available ways out in the event of a fire or other emergency, respond when the smoke alarm sounds by exiting the building immediately, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Walker Fire and Emergency Services during Fire Prevention Week 2019. And I'll give a shout out, particularly firefighter Kevin, as the kids call him at the various schools. When I go and do the reading of the books and stuff for the different classes, there's not a school I go into, I get to hear about firefighter Kevin and the great job that he does teaching the young ones and their awareness of things. So give him a shout out on that end of it. So that's more proclamation. We'll jump to the consent agenda. So we have two items. One is our expenditures in the amount of $23,694,636.61, of which Daryl has already covered the size of it and the detail behind it. And then we also have the Northridge East Development Agreement. Any questions on these? Otherwise, one motion, we'll pass those.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Motion of Commissioner Glanville.
I'll support.
Support Commissioner DeShane. Any other discussion on those? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, consent agenda is passed. All right, so now we are on to resolution 19-536. And Daryl, I believe this is just as we just, this is a house cleaning item of getting our contractual framework in order of who can sign. And Shannon from the MERS piece of it is involved as she is with things, actually is able to be a designated signer at this point, is one of the additions there.
Yep, that's correct. Just she can sign on our behalf.
Okay. All right, any questions on that? More procedural? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution -19-536, adding to the authorized MERS signatures.
I'll make that motion.
Motion Commissioner Groders. Do we have
Support.
support? Support for Commissioner Heisinger. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, resolution 19-536 is passed. Next on the list is resolution 19-537, resolution to approve a on-premise tasting room permit for the 1983 Brewing Company. We just had Mr. Lawrence up here speaking to the background behind that. Any dialogue, questions around this while we're up here? Okay.
I have a question. Can you just for curiosity's sake, like clarify the difference between a tasting room permit and a sales permit, or what are we talking about here?
So, on-room tasting permit, I do believe, you're welcome up, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to go over that. So you're asking about the sales permit, as in the SDM type?
Yeah, I'm just curious if you can clarify,
Sure,
what are the
so-
different licenses you're looking
Yeah,
at?
there are a lot of licenses that come with opening a brewery. There's a federal TTB brewer's notice, there's a state microbrewing license, there is food safety board you need approval from, and then there's an SDM to sell packaged goods for sales. Tonight, we are talking about an on-premise tasting permit, which would allow us to give samples out to people on premise or specific times during the week to be able to provide pints for sale on premise as well. So the permit specifically pertains to alcohol being served on site for consumption on site.
So I don't see anything in here, maybe I'm missing it, but it doesn't say anything, like what determines that it's a taste and not a drink?
They're viewed as the same thing, whether it's 1 ounce or 16 ounces, it's an open drink within the building in the city limits, so it's viewed as the same thing by MLCC.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gilbert, from the Planning Commission's perspective, any additional insight that's not been covered so far?
Yeah, I would just say that we reviewed the project, felt really good about it. I think the plans were good. I think we talked a little bit about drainage maybe on the site, if I'm remembering correctly. This review was a little while ago, but we did get into a little bit of the nuance of the tasting versus the sale generally. And it's not like a facility where people will be hanging out, having a bunch of drinks or something like that. It is more for the tasting to kind of determine what you're going to purchase, and I think the nature of it really fit. It'll be a nice addition to the area, and obviously came forward with planning commission approval.
And you had, Mr. Lawrence, how many seats that you were going to plan on having in there? I know it was a very small amount.
So we're trying to keep the occupancy around 49, and then the seating is being determined right now by our architect, likely in the 12 to 25 range for seats. So we do, along with the tastings, we would like to have on Saturday afternoons the ability for the community to come in and have a pint. We think that would be really nice for the community surrounding us. Certainly, we do not have any plans of being a local watering hole. We do not have plans on being open ever past 8 o'clock in the evening, but with the city's permission, we would like, with this permit, especially on Saturday afternoons, for community members to be able to come in and have a beer with their other community members as well.
Good, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Lawrence while we have him up there?
Are you brewing this on site too?
Yes, we
Okay.
will be brewing on site. It is technically a nano operation. Our brewing system is 1 barrel at a time into 3 barrel fermenters. We've worked with our tank suppliers out of Wisconsin to specifically design a system with a condenser. So not to get too technical, but we will not be venting anything to the neighborhood either. We've worked very hard with our tank suppliers that everything will be condensed back into liquid and sent down the drain.
Okay, that's my
So
question.
not to, send aromas or anything that could be offensive out into the neighborhood, because we are very aware that we are right up against houses back there.
And then are you selling this, packaging it in like the form of a growler or
Mostly cans,
cans?
pint
Okay.
cans, 16-ounce pint cans.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay. With that being said, I'm not gathering that there's any dissension to have you be happy to entertain a motion for Resolution 19-537 to approve the on-premise tasting room permit for 1983 Brewing Company.
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Commissioner
Support.
DeShane, support from Commissioner Glanville. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passed. Congratulations. All right, next on our list is Resolution 19-538, Sterling Hospitality Holiday Inn Class C Quota License Request. We have had Council, Mr. Parmenter has been up sharing his comments, and I'll open this to the commission discussion here and also see if there's any additional questions around this dialogue. So that being said, the floor is all of yours.
Yeah, so a couple of things I'm struggling with for my part, and I did go on site to see it, and it looks like a good facility, good hotel. I think it's a good addition. But typically when we're reviewing projects like this, that operation is contingent upon having those Class C licenses. That's something that's brought up really early on. Right when they're coming in for their planning commission approvals, typically that's part of the review is that while we're approving this project, we are designating that we're going to be giving them one of our Class C licenses. That's something that we frame these approvals through because we are so limited in those Class C licenses. And as I've heard it described, the Class C is kind of the Cadillac of the liquor licenses and has the most to offer. So that's where I run into some hiccups with the way that I'm viewing this, because when we approved this project, we didn't have that frame of mind where we were approving something that was going to be utilizing one of those. And we've been doing a lot of discussion lately on our Class C licenses, and especially in preparation for the next census, hopefully, where we may get another, that maybe we want to start leveraging these licenses in a different way. So for my part, it makes it really hard to wrap my head around approving a project that's already about done to take our last liquor license at this point, when it's so late in the process. For this to be such a high priority and such a demand for your project, it's tough when we didn't hear about it much earlier on, I guess is the way that I would frame this.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, other comments?
I would agree with Commissioner Gilbert. I too went out to the site, and I agree, it's a great looking hotel. I think it's going to be a great addition to the city, but my question at that time to the gentleman was the same thing. You know, why are we so late in this process? Why didn't we discuss this earlier? Because it kind of puts us, I mean, it really does put us in a tough position, because this is our last license, and Walker is a growing community, and we have a lot of opportunity to bring in a lot of exciting businesses and social, more cultural, social, interesting places, to kind of build that piece of the city. And if we give up that license, I realize we don't have anything, right in front of us, but we won't have anything right in front of us if we don't have that to help bring some of that other business in. So it's kind of a rock and a hard place, but my concern is that, it was, it's a last minute ask, and so it's just like I said, it's tough. It's not a good position to be in.
Okay, thank you.
I guess the only comment that I would have is, you mentioned that there are no other hotels in Walker that have a liquor license. So I guess then my question is, why is it necessary in order to have a viable business? Is it, if others are operating businesses without it, then why is it that critical for this particular project?
Sure, we'll deviate here, go ahead. Yep.
In response to that, this particular Holiday Inn is a full-service Holiday Inn. And as part of a full-service Holiday Inn, they have a requirement for a restaurant with a liquor license. And so that's why this particular franchise, this particular model that Holiday Inn puts out requires a restaurant with a liquor license. So that's why the need for it. The timing also had to do, part of it was, or a lot of it was, typically we don't apply for a liquor license until you're closer to, when you're getting ready to open. It's normally a couple of month process. You apply for your liquor license and you can get one. And so knowing that the town or the city had one available, I don't think the engineer was working on the construction stuff. He wasn't looking at the operational side, and particularly the building, the architecture, and the zoning and codes and all that kind of stuff for construction. Wasn't thinking on the operational side on the liquor license. But in essence, we don't, if we would have come to you in the very beginning with an $11 million project and say, we need a liquor license, will you help us out? We would have hoped, as we hope now, that you would have said yes. And so the delay, I don't see how it harms the city at all to say yes now versus if it would have said yes before. So that's to those 2 points anyways. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer any.
So I'm coming to the left. Questions for council or statements? Okay, I think we're good there.
Well, I was just going to say, sorry. I think the reason that we're all a little perplexed is that it came at the 11th hour is because at some point in time, not too very long ago, we did have more than just one liquor license left. But we gave that to
BW3.
BW3. So had you made that request earlier, we may have been a little bit more open to it because like Commissioner Glanville had said, you know, this is growing, Walker is growing so quickly, and we do want to kind of keep that in our hip pocket to some degree because we don't know what other opportunities might be there for a different kind of venue that may not at all saying more deserving, but be something that might be more with what we thought in mind by saving that one. I like the fact that your hotel is going to be here in the city and that you're being a part of Walker, but I truly wish that there would have been more insight in the planning up front.
Yeah, thank you.
I agree with everything that was said. I think the whole thing that's confusing right now is just like the lack of communication with wanting it and then the last minute aspect of it.
Can I just ask one more clarifying question too? So it's my understanding that you can get a liquor license from other sources. This is just
We will have to locate one within Kent County that somebody is willing to sell. Same with any other person. If you release this one to us now, somebody in the future could still go bring a license that's been issued in Kent County and bring it in here. So it doesn't preclude more future opportunities in the city. But this one, so it's kind of, you're holding it, you're not letting it be in use when there's a good viable opportunity right now to use this one, and it doesn't prevent a future development in the city.
Right, but I just want to, I'm just so that I understand, like, you can still open your hotel. It's just a matter of getting a liquor license from someplace else.
We have to go find one. We got to try to find one.
Okay, but it's not going to, like, leave the hotel
It could end up being empty for a while.
Okay. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I think probably one point of clarification on that is because we have one available, if we grant one that it has to be within Kent County, and we grant somewhere down the road and we still have that one available, it does count towards our quota, and then our one that we were saving is gone. So there's a little twist there. That's a state
I'm sorry.
nuance. That's
Can
a
you say
state
that
law,
again?
so I'll walk through it.
Yeah,
So
say that again.
done my research this week. So if we have one available, Class C, and we grant while that's available within Kent County, within any jurisdiction within the county, if we allow something to come in, say from the city of Grand Rapids that was available, they purchase on what I would deem to be an open market, and they bring it into the city. If we considered granting that, we have to be aware that currently by state law, if we grant that within this county, while we have one available, it takes this one off the table. So it further distresses me more that we have a continued pattern here. There's poor planning on their part is not our problem. They should have known this. We have one left, and it's not something when we have, I don't know if there's any other questions you have.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, keep
I'm
going.
still not following what you're saying
Okay.
about the Grand Rapids license.
So we have, and it doesn't have to be Grand Rapids, it could be
Right,
Gaines
no, I
Township, what
understand.
have
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
The way the state law reads, if there is one available,
So
we have.
we have one available.
We have one available.
Okay,
And we were to grant one to come in from, if we denied this tonight and they brought forth a month, 6 months from now, we still have that one available, we have to give consideration. If we grant this one goes off the table then.
so if they bring in a license from somebody else,
Class C.
and we still have ours, we lose ours.
Correct.
So here's a question on that front. So part of the Buffalo Wild Wings granting their Class C license that we recently did, was that they had another Class C license that was tied up on that property.
Correct.
So if they were to acquire that license, it stays within the city of Walker. That doesn't affect our existing license.
No.
Okay. Just some clarification,
And at
because I
that
believe
point-
that one still is out in the ether.
Yeah, so in that right now, too is, I mean, we have an established business that's been in the community for some time and open, and we know what we have with them, so. Okay.
And one more point of clarification, when we grant a license, we never get it back.
Class C?
Yeah.
So what happens is every census, in the rough number, right now, our licenses, I believe, are based off of a population of roughly 24,000. So the next census that takes place, for approximately every 1,500 people, we're granted a Class C license. As Mr. Lawrence had mentioned earlier, there's a whole myriad. There's literally, the Michigan laws around liquor licenses are probably some of the most complex in the country. So that being said, census being up next year, don't know how quick they'd rule on it. It could be a couple of years. 2021 would be before the earliest, and that's assuming the feds are on track and we get our census numbers on a timely basis. Then the state then grants additional Class C licenses based on that. We're going to probably be very close at that point about getting another one, but I don't think take a stab here. We could look at tax rolls and so forth. I don't think we're going to be above 26,000. So we'll be close. Close.
Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, I do believe that even if you don't grant this one, the approval to bring the license in will not take off your existing license that you're holding. Because if that was the case, you'd already be out of licenses because you have more than the 1,500 per person out there already.
That would probably want to take up with our prosecuting attorney, which I did. And I have it in writing.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Any other questions? So it sounds like we are fairly unanimous up here, and I'll share my big concern. This has been a project that's been going on for a year and a half plus. We've been out there for, I know I had a deal at one point, I had Consumers Energy reach out to me because they're digging around a pole. We've had a series of delays there. This is probably the slowest project I think I've ever seen for a hotel of this size ever. And when you do a little bit of research on the applicant tonight, there's an existing lawsuit in Muskegon County that the judge has yet to rule on the damages, but it was a non-compete breach of agreement. And right now in Fruitport Townships, there's 2 hotels sitting half-built, 4 stories apiece, each containing about 100 finished rooms. Township has no idea what's going to happen with them. Given everything where we're at right now in this last minute, oh, hey, we forgot this, I'm not at all comfortable even entertaining this. And when you think of, a hotel, a Class C license in a hotel, particularly where that's going to be at, that's not an establishment, that's a point of destination. That's the travelers that are there come downstairs, get a beverage at night with dinner, what have you. That's not something that we're just typically heading in the cars to go out to dinner for. And that Class C license, when we think of the strategic value that has for us as a community, we know what's going on in Standale. We don't know what the final result's going to be. We're going to need that license at some point in lieu of us getting another one with population growth. So I'm not at all in favor of this, and it doesn't sound like I'm hearing any advocacy up here for it. Am I off base on this one? Okay. So I will entertain a motion then to deny Resolution 19-538 to Sterling Hospitality in denying their Class C quota license request.
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Commissioner Heisinger. Do I have support?
I'll support.
Support from Commissioner Groders. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, request denied. Apologies. Thank you. Next on our list is, get the my closed session piece, so. So our purpose next will be to go into closed session as permitted under Section 8E of the Open Meetings Act to consider the purchase or lease of real property and to potentially act on closed session discussion. Do I have a motion to move that we can go into closed session as permitted under Section 8D of the Open Meetings Act?
Make a motion?
Motion Commissioner Gilbert.
I'll support.
Support from Commissioner DeShane. Gilbert. All right. Madam Clerk, if you'd please call the roll for us.
Mayor Carey.
Yes.
Gilbert. Yes. Commissioner DeShane.
Yes.
Commissioner Glanville.
Yes.
And Commissioner Groders.
Yes.
And I think I missed Commissioner Heisinger.
Yes.
All right, we can head into closed session. Chief Howell, thank you for staying. You're welcome to join us. Otherwise, lines are kicking off shortly.
Or you can guard the room.
Oh, you're waiting for me?
Lead the way.
I don't trust people behind me.
Usually those guys go in there.
Was it right?
I have a cup just like that, only it says golf on it.
Oh, yeah? Spilled the butter all over my minutes. I have one more I forgot that Daryl just reminded me. No. I know. Daryl just reminded me.
We're on?
Yep.
Okay.
I just have one comment I forgot to mention earlier. Our first November meeting is on Veterans Day and the city is closed. So as of right now, we don't have anything pending for needing that meeting. So we could, due to the holiday close, and then we'll just have one on the end of the month. And then, of course, we'll have the committee work session, commission work session on the third Monday. As long as everybody's in agreement with that.
Can you give actual dates on that? Because don't we have a strategic meeting or something? Like, yeah.
That's the fourth.
Yeah, that's what I just need dates. Sorry, when you say first and third, I lose me.
So our next commission meeting is October 28th, in 2 weeks.
Okay,
Of course, we have October 21st, our commission work session.
yeah.
That will have ordinance prior. And then the strategic session is Monday, November 4th. From 4 to 6:30. Do you think it's going to run that long? Yeah? Okay. And then November 11, we're closed for the holiday. And then we'll have work session on November 18th and a full commission meeting on Monday, November 25.
Thank you.
We are holding work session next week, just getting some confirmation on that.
Yes.
Yep, Income Tax Department will be
Oh,
presenting.
cool.
And who's presenting in November, Daryl?
I think I said fitness.
Ice and Fit, yep,
Tentatively scheduled.
with Vic.
And then, so next week, Daryl's gone, then I'm gone on the 28th. I'll be in Boston, so Commissioner Gilbert has the meeting that night. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Can we get something really long with the fire department pursuing proclamation?
oh, all good.
May I ask if you can elaborate on the or the strategic session? Like, is it going to be like you just doing your presentation like you did last time?
We are planning, we have a planning session this week, the three of us do.
Okay,
Actually, tomorrow afternoon, I believe.
but all
so.
department heads will be there, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep. This will not be, what we go through, there's a value in the capital improvement planning part of that, and that's probably one of the one of the main reasons we've been strategically in such a good spot is we're thinking, years ahead. So that being said, we'll keep that around the same time frame every year, but this is meant to be the strategic planning piece, and it's us adapting a little bit more to a newer commission here and really starting to implement strategies of not necessarily financial in nature, but the priorities, how do we view them, have that interaction with staff, but it's a lot of it's going to be non-monetary based. So, but we have our planning session, the three of us, tomorrow afternoon.
okay, perfect.
And before we have that, you guys will send us some direction in terms of how to prepare.
Not at all, we'll wait till the last
Oh,
minute and just say, hey,
perfect.
just show up.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Commissioner Glanville, did you remember your question from
I
earlier?
did, yes. So I also attended the Community Expo that the Chamber of Commerce and the schools partnered on. And so it was a great opportunity for me to meet a lot of our businesses. And so that was really exciting to hear what some of their hiring practices are, what they're doing for the community, supporting returning citizens, things like that. And I actually was just telling Commissioner Gilbert I have a question for him about some rapid stuff that kind of came out of that. So, but it was a really great opportunity, like I said, to really just go around and talk to different businesses that I didn't even know were in Walker. So that was a great opportunity, and I hope that they continue to do it. I know it was it's the first one, so there's a lot of going back and saying what can we do to improve, and I hope that they do and they continue to do it.
Okay, good, thank you. Anything else for the good of the order before we get out of here and get to kick off? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Gilbert, support?
Support.